Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Angie Dorn. I'm the Sales and Marketing Administrator here at Inovia. And joining us today is Gino Pack. He is our Solution Architect and Partner Success Manager. And he's going to be doing a repeat of the tips and tricks optimizing performance of Business Central Cloud. We do want this session to be an interactive session. So if you do have any questions as Gino is going through his tips and tricks, please go ahead and type any questions that you have in the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom panel. If you want to raise your hand, you may do so and I can unmute you if you want to ask your question. And if you have any chat conversations that you want to keep going, you can just put those in the webinar chat also at the bottom of your panel. So I'm going to turn it over to Gino to start the presentation. And as a reminder, this is being recorded and everyone will get a copy of the recording later this week. And we will also publish this on our website and on YouTube. Gina, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Angie. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining today for another Inovia webinar. I'm excited to do this repeat session from our customer conference that was in Indianapolis in April of this year. Now, it's been a little bit of time, but I do think that everything in this webinar today is applicable for those who are on Business Central Cloud. I'm hoping to debunk some rumors today. I'm hoping that everyone walks away with a piece of advice they can take back and utilize within their system. And I'm just excited to share this information with you today. As Angie said, my name is Gino Pack. I'm a solution architect and partner success manager here at Inovia Consulting. I have been with Inovia for about 6 years now. But I've been working with Nav and Business Central for 16 years now. I've worked on the end user side, on the partner side. I worked with finance and supply chain for a short stint for about 9 months. But Business Central and Nav is my home, and I really enjoy sharing knowledge about what I use, about what I do when I kick the tires and work with other customers to solve their business problems. So today we're going to go ahead and we're going to accomplish these 3 things. So I'm going to do a little survey. Now, you can't really respond. You can feel free to reply in the chat, but I played this game at the customer conference called Never Have I Ever Performance Edition. I thought it would be a fun way to just break the ice. So we'll just go through that quick survey and you can answer to yourself. You don't have to, it's not participatory or anything like that. Then we're going to go through 10 tips to unlock performance improvements within Business Central Cloud. So these are changes you can make in your environment that should improve performance. And then there are tools within Business Central that help you stay proactive with system performance. So you can address them before you get that help desk ticket or that email from a user saying they're locked out or the system's running slow or stuff like that. So I'm hoping I could share some of those with you today, and you can take them back and use them in your own environment. So the objectives from today's session is walk away with 1 lesson on how to be proactive, how to proactively improve performance in your Business Central Cloud environment, and then walk away with 1 troubleshooting tool that you can utilize in the future to be proactive on your Business Central Cloud performance. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into our game. Never Have I Ever Business Central Nav Performance Edition. So I'm going to say a statement, and to yourself, have you ever actually done this in your own Nav or Business Central environment? It'll be a fun way for you to just reflect on some general things that can cause performance issues in your system. And I state all of these items here as from experience. So I have done all of these, and that is how I know that they can cause some performance issues in my environment. So let's go ahead and have a little fun here. Never have I ever ran a report without filters. Open-ended reports can be a huge huge resource drain on your system. So if you've ever ran a report without filters and you get users saying that the database is locked up or it's running slow, well, there you go. That could happen. Never have I ever tested a development change in production. How many of us have said, oh, it's a small change, shouldn't be a problem, just throw it right in production. And we throw it in, and all of a sudden you're getting emails saying something is broken. I know I've done it. Never have I ever left a job queue running every minute forever. No user is doing anything in the system, but for some reason the system is bogged down, and you go and look at your job queues and it shows that you are running a process every 60 seconds without a break. That has happened to me. Never have I ever scheduled all of my job queues to run at the same time. There's no gaps in between job queues. They're all running at the same time, just hogging your system resources. That has happened to me. Never have I ever opened a list with all records and scrolled to the bottom really fast just to see how quickly it loads. That's happened to me. Never have I ever opened more than 10 tabs of Business Central and left them all running. Bunch of sessions open at once. Never have I ever blamed Microsoft for slow performance before checking my own setups or customizations. Whenever an update happens, it's always on Microsoft. That's my blame game. But sometimes we have to take a look at our own customizations or our own setups before Microsoft gets involved. Otherwise, their first response is going to be, well, did you remove an extension or did you test it without this customization before reaching out? So being proactive and testing in a base system is always a good move to make. So the lesson from this game is all of our systems are not immune to performance issues, whether they caused by us or by something else. So I just want everybody to just take that into account. So now let's jump into the 10 performance tips and tricks within Business Central. So tip number 1 is block inactive customers, vendors, and items. What does this do? So it improves data integrity for clean master data and reliable reporting. So by excluding vendors, customers, and items that are blocked, reports will just naturally run faster because you are not including them in your search criteria when running a report. It speeds up lookups and searches by filtering out block records, and it allows users to focus on relevant data. So as I mentioned before, when you're running reports in Business Central for customers, vendors, or items, simply just exclude all your blocked values. That way the report runs faster. So how do you block inactive customers and vendors? On the customer card, there is a blocked dropdown, and the options for the blocked dropdown are blank, so which means active. All activity within the system is allowed for this specific customer. Ship, if you block with a ship, new orders and shipments can't be created. Existing shipments, you can still invoice. Invoice means no orders or shipments can be created or invoiced, and existing shipments can't be invoiced. So you really can't do many supply chain activities, but you can still send out reminders for past due invoices, apply payments, that type of thing. And then blocked with all means that no transactions are allowed in the system for this specific customer. Block inactive vendors. So on the vendor card, there is a blocked field again, and the options for vendors are either blank, so all activity is allowed, blocked for payment, so you can't generate payments for that specific vendor, and then blocked all, which means no transactions can be created for this specific vendor. Sorry, I think I said customer there a second ago. And then blocking inactive items and item variants. So this is something that has changed a little bit over the last couple versions of Business Central, especially if you uh, especially if you utilize item variants. Microsoft has started separating out the different supply chain and business processes within the system of how you can block items and item variants. So, for instance, on the item card, let me turn on my laser pointer. On the item card, if you select blocked, you block all the transactions within the system. Now you can also do sales and service blocked, which means you can still purchase the item, but you can't sell it or service it. You can also do purchasing blocked, which means you cannot purchase this item anymore, but you can still sell it and service it. And then it takes it even down to another level from the actual down to the actual item variants where you can actually block an item, a block of variant specifically, fully sales, service, purchase, and production. I forgot to mention production there. Production block means you cannot produce the item, but you can still sell it. So blocking for items is really down to a more granular level, so you can block specific business processes if required for each one of your items. Tip number 2, enable new ledger posting features. So Business Central is changing the way posting in the background when you're posting various journals or item ledgers or job ledgers or warehouse entries to decrease the amount of blocking that actually happens in the system. Now, blocking in the system is a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing because it prevents data corruption. It does not allow something else to take the place of another transaction, so you don't ruin data integrity. So blocking is not a bad thing. It just tends to happen at the most inopportune time, and when a bunch of users are trying to do the same thing at the same exact time, blocking can hold up the system. And this is a known thing that's been in the nav and Business Central space for a very long time. And really what Microsoft is trying to do is change the way the posting routines work so that way posting can happen at the same time or concurrently. So if you look at this chart that I put up, when you enable the new ledger posting features, and by the way, this is something that needs to be enabled in the feature management page in Business Central. So it's not enabled by default right now. It will be enabled by default next year. But in your current environments, it is not enabled by default. So you have to go to the feature management page and turn it on. But what the old routine does is whenever you post something, they happen in the order that the person hits the posting button. So if user blue and user green hit the post button at the same exact time, green is going to get blocked because blue got in first. Okay. And this has to do with the entry number sequencing. Well, Microsoft is changing that now because entry number sequencing is not necessarily something that's required for auditing or anything like that. So Microsoft is allowing concurrent posting to happen by letting users, or when the posting routine runs, it's letting these 3 posting routines run concurrently and allowing posting of the entries in between others, which, like I said, it's not anything that requires any auditing or anything like that, or has any concern when it comes to just system integrity or anything like that. But it definitely is going to decrease the number of blocks that you have when multiple users are trying to post something at the same exact time. And really, the biggest effect you're going to see this in is in your warehouse. When you're doing your warehouse, just general warehouse postings to your warehouse entry or item ledger or value entry tables, because you're doing a high volume of transactions during the day, all day long, and allowing users to be able to post as they're interacting with your WMS system or something like that. It just really is a tremendous performance improvement. Tip number 3, limiting your changelog entries. So everyone knows what the changelog is. This has been around for a long time. And there's a lot of times where we've run into issues where, oh, I want to be able to track the sales order header table and the sales line table for changes that are being happened. Well, you may go in and you may enable the table, but you forget to reduce the number of fields being tracked by the table. And if you turn on all the fields for every table, you are going to tremendously decrease the performance of your system, because every time you are navigating to a new field or entering data, modifying data, deleting data within the changelog, your changelog is recording that. So what I recommend you do in this case is reduce the number of fields being tracked by the table. Only track the fields that are important for you to be able to track in the changelog entries. Limit the number of heavy transaction tables from being tracked. So value entries, general ledger entries, item ledger entries. You really don't need to do heavy monitoring on those posting tables, because they really can't be modified once an item is posted for gap reasons. So limit your heavy transaction tables from being tracked, and then enable data retention policies on the changelog entry tables, and only retain the data that's needed for a period of time. So enabling and decreasing the amount of data that's in that table will also improve performance of the system, because when you have to go search for changelog entries and you have several million entries in there, it takes a while for the system to filter that table down. And as it's continuing to add data to that table, it's going to decrease performance as well, because of indexing and whatnot. So my recommendation is to reduce the number of table fields, limit the heavy transaction tables, and enable data retention policies to only keep the data that you need. Tip number 4, using read scale out. So there are 2 types of business central transactions really in the cloud. These are business processes that read and write data, such as code units that run from UI pages or web services, and analytical workloads that only read data, such as queries, reports, or API pages. Now, what read scale out does is, for your transactional operations, so your read and write transactions, they read directly off your primary Business Central database. Now, in the background, there is a secondary replica of your Business Central database that is read only. We can't see it. Microsoft doesn't give us access to the SQL Azure instance to be able to see this. But in the background, as you're interacting with your primary database, it is shipping those transactions over to the secondary database, which is read only. And Business Central does have 2 options for you to be able to point your analytical workloads, so your read-only transactions, towards the secondary database to reduce the number of transactions on your primary database to increase performance. And those 2 options are, the first one is within the developer, within the development environment. So when you're creating an API or a report, you enable a feature called read scale out. Okay. And there is a data access intent property within AL code that allows you to set the property to what's called read only. This will point this object towards the read only database, and not towards your primary database. This is really great for APIs that are just reading data, so such as like a customer list, for instance. And a lot of the standard APIs and reports that come out of the box with Business Central are already using this property for default. So my recommendation is, as you're building these custom APIs or custom reports that are analytical or read only, you're not doing any write transactions into the system, set your data access intent property to read only. Now, I'm not a developer, okay? You may not be a developer, so how can I handle this via the UI? Well, there's a page in Business Central called data access intent list, where you can actually change the data access intent property to read only from the UI within Business Central. So if you have custom reports already and you don't have the ability to modify them or change the properties via AL code, go to the data access intent list in Business Central and change the property to read only. And then that report, whenever you run it, will point directly at the read only database. Tip number 5, remove apps that you are not using. So I'm gonna caution this one with a complete this in a sandbox first. Don't just go into your production environment and start uninstalling its extensions. Really think this one through. In Business Central, there are 71 extensions in version 26. Okay. And those are just base Microsoft extensions. Those aren't extensions from ISVs or your customizations. Those are Microsoft extensions. There may be extensions in here that you are not using, that is executing code, whether you're actually using the extension or not. The more code you're executing, the more of a performance hit it has on your database. So you can go in and actually uninstall extensions that you are not using to improve performance within your environment. So here are my tips. 1, as I mentioned before, complete this in a sandbox first, okay? 2, start with removing the obvious applications that you're not using. So data migration applications. If you're live in the system already, you don't need the cloud migration tools installed anymore. Your Contoso demo data applications. If you're in a production environment and you don't want to create demo data, remove those. Bank feed and payroll applications. So if you're not using integrated bank feed like AMC banking, or if you're not using Certi and payroll integrations or anything like that, uninstall those. Do not remove ISVs or per tenant extensions. That's another name for your customizations, unless it is validated that it's not in use by your internal team or your Microsoft partner. So talk with Enovia. If you're not a customer of Enovia's, talk with your partner, talk with your internal team. Don't just go and uninstall those applications. It could really mess up your environment. And then utilize built-in tools to aid in identifying unused applications. So you can utilize telemetry or your page inspector to identify what tools are or what extensions are being used in the system and what is not being used in the system. Tip number 6, run adjust cost via the job queue. So adjust cost is a default out of the system. Business Central does cost adjustments per transaction. Okay. This allows the system, your system, to be able to have real-time inventory valuation and real-time costs on your items. Okay. Now, for high transaction volume environments, that method can cause increased slowdown when you're posting within the system. Okay. So what you can do is you can circumvent doing automatic cost adjustments by running your adjust cost via the job queue during non-peak hours of your system. So when would you do this? Okay. If you're in a high transaction volume environment, okay. If you are doing tens of thousands of inventory transactions because you're a distribution or manufacturing facility, these modules generate the most item and value entries. Running adjust costs once per day can improve the performance and stability of your system. It allows you for predictable timing for cost updates. So running your adjust cost via the job queue on a scheduled basis can allow for predictability and when cost values will be finalized for your reporting purposes. And then also for if you backdate transactions. Cost adjustments need to be able to ripple through historical entries, which can be resource intensive. Okay, so running adjust cost and when to use it, these are some areas when you would use it. Okay. Now, when do you not use adjust cost via the job queue? If your business has a low volume of inventory transactions or your business requires real-time inventory valuation accuracy, don't run it through the job queue. Just leave it as the system does via default, and just let the system do what it does best, is give you the most accurate costing as possible in real time. That is a huge advantage of the Business Central system in general, but we understand where certain businesses just need to rely on more performance improvement within the system. Now, I do want to point out that this decision is a business decision, not a system decision or an IT decision. Ensure all the business parties involved with your financial aspect of the system, your transactional aspect of the system, agree to this change, and make sure you assess the impact on your financial reporting in a test environment first. Don't just go and run adjust cost. But if you do decide to do that, how do you turn it on? So in the inventory setup table, there is a toggle called automatic cost posting. If you shut that toggle off, you're going to get a message up at the top of the screen that says, if you turn it off, you must do these tasks manually. Okay. And it gives you a message to schedule the cost posting in the job queue. And when you go ahead and schedule the cost posting in the job queue, you schedule whether you want it to run daily, at what time during the day. Do you want it to run nightly? Do you want it to run weekly, monthly? Your choice at that point. But when you turn it off, you do have to enable it via the job queue, or your actual costs will not post to the appropriate related transactions. So that's why it's very important to make a decision from a business perspective. Tip number 7, be smart about your web services, also known as APIs. Take the time to analyze what web services you're using, such as SOAP or OData, and remove the depreciated web services. SOAP is a web service type that is being depreciated within the next couple of versions of Business Central. It is less performant. OData or APIs are more efficient at processing data requests. So switching to a more modern API service would be largely beneficial. And regularly review the APIs that you have in your system via the API pages. Disable web services that you're not using anymore. That way, whatever system is pinging your environment can stop pinging it and taking away from the performance of your system. Use page types in Business Central that are built for APIs and web services. If you just expose the standard customer card in Business Central, it has UI elements. It's loading fact boxes. It's calculating every flow field on the system. It is not built to be an API, so don't just expose any page within the system. Make sure you're working with a developer to expose the proper pages that are built for APIs and web services, so you're not loading any unneeded code or unneeded data. Tip number 8, utilizing page background tasks. This one is more for a developer. An example of this can be loading your customer statistics on the customer card. So it's the statistics page or the fact, or not fact box. It's the customer statistics fact box that's sort of on your fact box page. What it does is, instead of fetching the totals of the page, or as you're opening the page, when you open the page, a trigger goes on and runs a code unit in the background that can fetch the totals for your sales, outstanding orders, balances, etc. in the background. So the page still pops up with most of the data, and then the totals come in behind it. And what this does is it allows you to have better responsiveness of UI pages within the system. It allows you to process heavy calculations from the background instead of having it triggered when you open your page. And it fetches the information after the main page loads. So you still get that effect of the page loading fast. You get most of your data, and then the heavy calculations run in the background. So it's actually a very cool way of loading data within the system. And to be honest with you, users barely notice it. So it prevents blocking, which is the most in the user interface, which is the most annoying piece for users to run into. Tip number 9, utilizing the job queue. So what you can do is utilize the job queue to schedule reports to start. From any report request page, what you can do is instead of previewing it or printing it directly from the UI, if you hit the send to button and you go ahead and schedule the report for when you want it to run, the report will generate in the background and then display in your report inbox on your role center once it is complete. So you can continue to working, especially if you're running a report that may take a little bit longer to run. You have you're using less filtering. You need to get a larger amount of data. This works really, really well because then you can continue working while the report is running in the background. You can also use it to post documents, post sales and purchase documents. So instead of sales, purchase, and journals. So in the sales and receivable setup and the purchasing and payable setup, you can enable posting with the job queue. And what it will do is when you go ahead and hit the post button on a sales order, sales credit memos, purchase invoice, purchase order, it will just schedule in the background. You will not get a pop-up that indicates that basically shows you the status of the posting routine. And then you can have the option of getting notified if a posting fails. So you just post and move on with the next step within your work. So the system will take care of the posting in the background. Tip number 10, calculate only visible flow fields. So flow fields on a system are fields where you can actually click on a number and you can go into an underlying table to view the data. Okay, so what the system is doing, like for example on the customer card here, when you look at the balance, what the system is doing is it's calculating that total based on a filter for that specific customer and open documents from the customer ledger entries to give you that total. That is calculating upon opening the page. Okay, and in previous versions of Business Central and Nav, whether you were displaying the field or not on your screen, so if you were hiding stuff in personalizations or displaying it, it was calculating every field. So organizations that have a large amount of flow fields on their master records, it would take longer for list pages to load. It would take longer for cards to load. What Microsoft did is it disabled the calculation of those flow fields if the field is hidden. So if you are an organization that just is ripping fields off the customer card because you have some people within the organization that do not require them to be a part of their view, those fields won't load. So that is a really, really cool feature. This will be enabled by default as of this release of Business Central, which came out today. So all of your systems do not have this enabled by default right now because version 27 was just released this morning. So if you want to enable it, it's a fairly low risk feature to enable. You can just go into feature management and enable the calculate only visible flow fields, or you can wait till the version 27 update, which is released today, but will be rolling out in the next couple of months to all of your various systems. This will turn on automatically. Let's take a look at some extra credit. So this is number 11, technically. This one I'm only bringing up because I've ran into several issues over the last couple of months about documents or about customers running out of storage in their Business Central environments. As you know, Microsoft gives you a pre-allocated amount of storage, and then you are given use rights storage based on the number of users that you have. Well, by default, Microsoft, when you attach PDFs or images within the system, by default, those attachments deplete your storage that you are allocated within the system. So we're finding companies that have been utilizing Business Central Cloud for the last, like 3 to 5 years are running out of space in their system. And 98% of the time, it's because they're attaching documents to the system and it's utilizing their storage. So my recommendation is look at document attachment solutions that are outside of Business Central. There are a number of ISVs out there that allow you to store documents in Azure Blob Storage or in SharePoint, but still be able to access them through the Business Central client. So you can still interact with it within the Business Central client by dragging and dropping documents into a fact box or viewing them on your items, your customers, your production orders, etc. But you're not actually taking away from the Business Central storage system because those documents are being stored in SharePoint or Azure Blob. My recommendation is look at SharePoint. If you're using Microsoft 365 inside of your business, there is a really good chance you have a lot of SharePoint storage, so you don't have to worry about paying for extra storage. Utilize what Microsoft already gives you within your Microsoft 365 tenant. And if you need any help with that, reach out to Novia. We can reach out to your customer success manager or support team, and we can help you analyze this a bit more. But it's a good item to be proactive on because I've run into it so much over the last couple of months with various customers. Alrighty, so the next part of my presentation here is I want to dive into the troubleshooting tools that are within the system that I'm going to be honest, I bet you are not using today. This is a quote that I have heard from multiple customers and multiple people that have struggled to move into Business Central Cloud for this. This is honestly one of the main reasons. It's impossible to troubleshoot performance in Business Central because I no longer have direct access to my service tier or my SQL server. So that part of that statement is true. Microsoft no longer gives you up direct access to SQL in the cloud, and Microsoft no longer gives you direct access to the service tier within the cloud. Microsoft manages all of that for you. You don't have to manage it anymore. Now, as a previous end user, I would go to these two services to be able to troubleshoot my system. And without the access, I question, how can I troubleshoot a performance issue if a end user is coming to me saying that they're experiencing something? Well, there are a number of tools within the system that Microsoft gives you as an admin or a user to be able to help troubleshoot performance. And I want to go through a number of those today because they all can help you get to the same information that you needed to get to when you had direct access to SQL or the service tier. So I want to debunk that myth or that statement here. First, let's start with the page inspector. The page inspector allows you to view the following elements about any page within the system. It allows you to view table fields along with the data type, whether it allows you to add them to the page, and it allows you to see how they're associated with extensions within your system. Now, as you can see here, there's three different, when you bring up the page inspector, which is Control-Alt-F1 is the keyboard shortcut for you. And I didn't note that on the page, I apologize. But the page inspector allows you to see the page information. It allows you to see the underlying table. You can click View Table and it will bring you directly into that table within the Business Central UI. It allows you to see all of the table fields that are associated with this page. It allows you to see the extensions that are associated with this page or that extend this table. And it allows you to see the default filters that are applied to this page as well. Some information towards the bottom is it gives you the field number, the field data type, whether it's a primary key, but it also shows you the extension that this field was added by. tons of information directly from one screen within Business Central if you're trying to drill down on a specific page within the system. Telemetry. Telemetry allows you to gain insight into user behavior, monitor system health, and extend via Azure Monitor for proactive monitoring. So what is telemetry? Telemetry is it's an automated gathering of data that allows you to analyze performance, figure out what errors are consistently happening within your system, and look at users' data usage patterns, as well as look at your system's health. Telemetry is emitted to an Azure application called Azure Application Insights or Azure Monitor. When you set it up, Business Central automatically emit streams of data to Application Insights. So you can look at it to proactively identify performance issues or usage patterns within your system. Think of it as the Windows error log for the cloud. If you're utilizing the Windows error log to look at SQL issues or service tier issues, telemetry is what gives you that, but it gives you more this time. So one thing I like about telemetry is that even if you're not a technical person, Microsoft provides you a free Power BI report to basically that ingests all the telemetry that's coming out of Business Central for you to be able to analyze and be proactive on the data that, that is coming out of, or the telemetry that's coming out of Business Central. So for instance, you have the ability to analyze user errors. Okay, so what are the common errors that are popping up in the system? Did our users give us any feedback on those errors? Integrations. How many times is a web service pinging my system, and what web service is pinging my system? Or even general system errors. What are my email errors, task errors, job queue errors, environment lifecycle errors, configuration packages that have failed, extension lifecycle. So what are the updates look like for my system? All of this can be analyzed via telemetry with Business Central and this Power BI report. And there's a ton of different reports that Microsoft provides out of the box. One of them is your SQL statement performance. So when SQL queries are running in the system, what are the long running SQL queries that are running in my system that I should take a look at? Okay. What does database locks timeouts look like? What do long running AL methods look like? What about incoming and outgoing web service calls, job queues, task schedule, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? This is all telemetry that you can analyze and help identify the performance issues that were in the system. Accessing telemetry, I see a question in there. So I will, I'm going to put a link, aka.ms/bc telemetry. I just put a link in the chat that allows you to access the Microsoft documentation on how to set up telemetry. If you need Inovia help, just please feel free to put in a support ticket or reach out to your customer account manager, and they could help you get in touch with someone who can help you activate it. So what telemetry is emitted in the system? So this, I believe this is a little video here. So yeah, whoops, I'm sorry. Go back. This is a little video here that's going to run that shows you all the different types of telemetry that's emitted. And telemetry is available for both online and on-premise versions of Business Central. And this this allows you to enable telemetry in both environments. So I'll just play this really quickly. Oof, it's not playing for some reason. I wonder why. Try this again. Sorry, everybody. There you go. As you can see, these are all the different pieces of telemetry that Microsoft exposes for you to be able to report on that helps with, with performance improvement. Okay. Alrighty, the next is database performance pages. There are 3 pages within Business Central that help you analyze performance. One is the database locks, gives you an idea of what your database locks look like in the system, any active database locks. Database missing indexes. So if you're having performance issues on a page, Business Central will log any missing indexes for you to be able to go ahead and create them. And then database weight statistics. So it will take a look at your weight category and give you analysis on it'll give you analysis on your database weight information. The next item is your in-app performance profiler. This one is a very powerful tool. This is actually one of my favorite outside of telemetry. I'd say telemetry is number 1, performance profiler is number 2, because what it does is it allows you to run as a user in the background, or as a user is performing their task that is causing performance issues. It allows you to run this performance profiler, and the system collects data on what performance issue is being experienced as a user executes a task. Okay, so it gives you real-time code analytics. So it analyzes the code as the user is performing the action, gives you the detailed execution insights, and then also it's very much useful for customization tuning. So if you're writing a customization that's heavy on business process, utilize the performance profiler to test the performance of your customization. I'm going to go ahead and show this to you here in a second. Some of the key features of the performance profiler include displaying active applications that ran during the recording of a business process, showing detailed technical information such as time spent per application, time spent per application object, so the objects within that extension, the call tree, so what was executed during the business process recording. And then coming in this next wave of Business Central, you can actually see the SQL statement that was called during the recording of this business process. This one's huge because you never really were able to see the SQL call information before in Business Central Cloud, but now you have the ability to see it here in this upcoming wave release. And that you can also schedule performance profiles. So let's say here's an example of every day at 3:00 a.m., the third shift in my facility can't post anything. Happens every day, same exact time. Nobody can understand what process is running. You can schedule a performance profile that will run at a specific day and time. It'll analyze a specific activity type if you select it, or you can analyze the performance of a specific user within the system. So this one, I actually love this feature because it helps you drill down into a specific performance issue. If you run into things, as I mentioned, it happens every day at this specific time. This allows you to schedule a performance review during a time period so you can see what's going on in the system. So here is a video of what the output of a performance profile looks like. You can see the active apps or extensions that were running during the time of the execution. And then you can dive into the technical information. So how much time or what is the duration that a specific app was running? You can see how much time was spent per object that was ran during the business process recording. And then you can see the code that was executed or the functions that were executed and how long they took to execute during the recording. Very, very, very cool amount of data. So when you're trying to identify where a performance issue is happening, this is really huge and very powerful for you to be able to use. And as I mentioned in version 27, so this next version of Business Central that's coming out, there is a new addition to the call tree called SQL. And as you can see, you can actually see what SQL statements were running during the time of recording and how long they ran as well. So super, super cool information that's being provided. Yeah. And that part, as I mentioned, is coming with this next version of Business Central that was released today. So, I'm going to consider this a debunked issue. It is possible to troubleshoot performance in Business Central because I have no longer have direct access to SQL or the service tier. And why is it possible? One, troubleshooting tools are all user friendly. They provide proactive monitoring capabilities. So for telemetry, you can set up alerts. You can set up thresholds within Power BI that gives you the ability to take action on a performance issue before it even gets to your help desk by an end user. And it provides actionable insights into the system's performance. Okay, if you found something, you know that you can now take action on that instead of spending time researching why something is happening. You know the why. Now you can jump right into how to fix it. So that is my presentation today. My contact information here is on the screen. So you can reach out to me. You can add me on LinkedIn. But with that, I will turn it back over to you, Angie.
Thank you for joining us today. Visit our resource page on our website at inovia.com/resources to quickly access all of our Business Central content and events taking place. If you have more questions, contact your customer success manager or email us at info@inovia.com. Thank you again, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you on another Inovia webinar. Take care.